I met a lot of guys that signed up for 6, and at year 3 were like, screw this, I don't want to do this anymore. But they still got 3 more years. If they'd have just done a 4-year, they'd be almost on their way out.
Welcome back to Airman Vision. We have another episode of the MEPS Podcast, which stands for Military Experiences and Personal Stories. Today, I'll be interviewing Alex Horak. He was actually one of my very first supervisors when I got stationed in Japan back in 2013. But over the last 12 years, we've stayed in touch. And today, he shares with you his journey from going from aircraft structural maintenance in the Air Force to a pilot as a civilian. Part of this podcast is to show you all that there really isn't one specific path for anybody. You still are in the driver's seat of your own life. Alex is a shining example of that, where he went from the enlisted side, doing maintenance on planes, to getting out, using the GI Bill to get his pilot's license, and then becoming a pilot for commercial airliners. Now, if you're in the process of joining or you know somebody that is, be sure to share with them Airman Vision. We have over 200 videos on YouTube for free. Plus, we have a bunch of information on airmanvision.com, including a BMT workout program, a BMT prep guide, and an Air Force prep course. But with that being said, let's jump right into the interview. All right, Alex, what was your resume before joining the Air Force, and how old were you when you joined?
So I joined at 23, so I was a little bit older. Graduated high school, went to college for 4 years, and decided I was wasting time and money, so I dropped out of school and enlisted. But the military was always where I wanted to be. But I've been working since I was like 15, summers and then Saturdays during school. My dad ran a lumber yard. I was like stocking shelves and mixing paint. And my junior and senior year of high school, I went and worked at an ice cream shop, scooping ice cream with my friends, and that was way more fun.
I said that's like the perfect high school job.
Yeah, all summer just making tips and scooping ice cream. When I went to college, I didn't work while I was in school, while the semester was going on, but in the summers I was doing construction. And then when I finally decided to drop out of school and join the Air Force, I had to wait. I think I went and talked to the recruiter towards the end of my spring semester, and I didn't go in until November. Found a lumber yard by the school that I was going to, and I worked in the yard driving delivery trucks and getting packages together.
So you were 23 when you joined the Air Force. And when you joined, what did you initially join as? Was that what you did your entire time you were in? And then how long were you in total?
This is a story. So I talked to my recruiter. I went to MEPS, and I didn't know that you can pick jobs at all. I didn't even know that was an option. I thought the Air Force was just going to be like, hey, we need you here, and this is your job.
This was like pre my content though.
Yes. This is 2008, pre Kyle Gott content, which I would have checked. So the MEPS guy asked me what I wanted to do, and I was like, be on or around airplanes. He gave me a list of like 8 things, and they were all like maintenance. So I listed those. They came back, and I originally got aircraft armament systems. Then I went back to where I was going to school and where I had my job. My boss came to me one day and was like, hey, I just helped a customer. He's a retired lieutenant colonel. He wants to take you out to lunch to talk to you. I'm like, okay, cool. So I go out to lunch with this guy. He asked me what my job is. I tell him aircraft armament systems. And he goes, you need to do whatever you need to do to get out of that job. He's like, it's a nowhere job in the Air Force, and it's a nowhere job in the civilian world. They're great. Those are great guys. I got nothing against them. They do all like loading the bombs and the bullets and stuff in the airplane.
It's not exactly a civilian career.
Yeah, but I just wanted to be in. Like, I didn't care that much. But I wanted to be around planes. So I go to my recruiter and I'm like, hey, I don't want to do this job. And he's like, well, the paperwork's signed. Well, I was looking, what about this combat controller? And he's like, oh, he's like, yeah, we can switch you to that. Like, that'd be fun. So I take the tests, I pass the test. So now I'm going in as combat controller. So I go to basic training with that guaranteed job, graduate basic, go to combat control school, fail out immediately.
I mean, there's like a 90% washout rate.
Anyways. Yeah, it's a big washout rate. And
I think it's gotten a little bit better because they train people better before going in now.
Yeah, I've been seeing this, and that's smart.
Yeah.
Turns out there's a big difference between pull-ups and chin-ups. So I failed out right away. And then I got reclassed, and I thought for sure I'd end up being a cop, security forces. But I got sheet metal, and that turned out to be awesome and great, and I loved it.
Which was 2A7X3 aircraft structural maintenance. The only reason I had that memorized because that was also my job in the Air Force. You were actually one of my first supervisors when I came in
that's how we met each other.
to the Air Force. So we met each other in Japan. You were kind of on your way out as I was just joining.
Yeah, I think a few months
Yeah.
I think we were there together a few months.
So you came in as aircraft structural maintenance. What did your career look like? What did you do while you were in? Because I know that we can do a few things. So if you just want to elaborate a little bit, maybe for a few minutes on what aircraft structural maintenance does or what you did specifically in that career path while you were in.
After basic for structural maintenance, as you know, we go to Pensacola, do our tech school. That's, I forget, 4 months, something like that.
Yep.
Then I went to Kadena in Japan, Okinawa, Japan. Started on the South Side shop, just doing sheet metal work, working F-15s. I love working on that airplane. The whole thing's metal, really hard to break stuff because it's thick metal because it's a fighter plane.
Yeah.
And the technical data is pretty specific. I spent most of my time down on South Side doing F-15s. From there, I got deployed twice to the Emirates. So I did 2 deployments with those. I came back, I was burnt out on 15s. So I went to the North Side shop and worked the heavies, KC-135s, the AWACS, the HH-60 helicopters, all that stuff. Was fortunate enough, I never went to corrosion. I did like little paint jobs, but not nothing big. I ended up doing 4 years at Kadena. I did a in-place consecutive overseas tour in Epcot. So 2 2-year tours. So I got to do 4 years. Then I went and got stationed in Minot, North Dakota, working B-52s. So the Air Force Extremes, an awesome base, followed by an also awesome base, we'll say. So got to work B-52s, which was kind of back to like the F-15 route where it's a lot of sheet metal. I ended up running a night shift, which was pretty cool because I was the most junior staff sergeant, E5 on the shift, but I had the most experience of all the E5s that were there as far as like doing the work and doing the job, which was strange.
So you did a 6-year contract. You decided to leave after your 6 years and not stay in. You didn't want to stay at Minot any longer.
Yeah, kind of, yeah. Being a pilot is what I always wanted to do. So I actually met my now wife on our deployment because before then I was going to do 20 from day one. And she convinced me, convinced might be the wrong word, but we talked about it. We were talking about dating and doing all this stuff and seeing each other. And she was the one that really brought up, she's like, why don't you just get out and go the civilian route? And until she had said that to me, didn't even cross my mind. I didn't even know that was an option to become a pilot. Like I thought you had to do the military.
You ended up leaving the military. And then what's been your resume since leaving the military? So I know you started to lead into, the possibility of, I could follow my dream and become a pilot.
Well, so after I got out, I did 2 more years as a reservist, which I hated. So I did 8 years total. As a reservist, I was going to flight school. So I went to a community college back home where I'm from to get all my ratings and do all my classwork and get all my licenses and stuff. So since I've gotten out, an associate's degree from that. I have an associate's degree from the Air Force, the community college of the Air Force, and I have finished my bachelor's degree. So I have those 3 degrees. I have all my flight experience. I was a flight instructor for a year and 4 months or something like that. So I have instruction now on my resume. I am now working at my 3rd airline and what should hopefully be my last forever. Yeah, so I have 4,500 hours of flight time.
When did you finish your flight school and then become an instructor initially? What year was that?
2017, January of 2017.
Okay, so you're pushing 7, almost 8 years now that you've been a pilot.
Yes.
So you went from aircraft structural maintenance, enlisted, to now you've been a pilot for 8 years. And you were not a pilot when you were in. You were not an officer when you were in. So you did all of that after getting out, after doing enlisted. Then you went and followed your dream to become a pilot.
Yes.
So overall, what was your best? We're going to go back to your Air Force experience now. Okay. So what was your best experience while you were in the Air Force?
This was a tough question because I loved the military. I had everything was, not everything was great, but I had a really good time. And
I'm sure we could probably do an entire episode just on good experiences that you had.
Yeah. So I was at Kadena for a few months. I was still doing my CDCs, my career development courses. They don't want you doing other stuff while you're doing your CDCs.
Yeah. You're essentially working full time and going to school full time. Right. So you go to work. So you do your job, you do your on the job training, and then your CDCs, your career development courses, essentially books that you get that you need to study on your free time. So you do your job all day, then you go to your dorm and you're expected to read these books all evening. and do that
Yes.
for essentially your first year that you're in.
Yeah, pretty much. Depending on your job, how many books you get. I think
Yeah.
for maintenance, for us, it was 5 books, I think.
Yeah.
And then
I think,
you got 1
yep.
month to study for the test. So it was
Yep.
6 months in total. So that's not the best part. The CDCs is not my best memory. But while I was doing that, one of my who became one of my best friends had to get ankle surgery, and they were going to send him to Hawaii to Hickam to get his surgery. And in the Air Force, you can't go anywhere by yourself. So he got to pick somebody to go with him, and he picked me. So I got to, so him and I he had to get surgery and it sucked for him, but I got a 3-week paid TDY to Hawaii
To just babysit him.
to just babysit him. We hung out and played video games and like got food or whatever. And then by the second and third week, I was like, hey man, like you're good. If you need anything, call me. I'm going to go I took surfing lessons. I went to like this ranch and went horseback riding and 4-wheeling. I went scuba diving.
A paid vacation. Like,
Yeah.
you were getting your full paychecks to be there for
Yes.
3 weeks. Yeah, that's not a normal experience. That's a very unique experience, but that's awesome that you got that experience out of that. So you probably still owe him a few beers for that. So
yes. Yeah.
All right, we're gonna flip the script now. What was your worst experience when you were in? That was a pretty good experience. But what was your worst experience when you were in?
My worst experience is it's like an all-encompassing experience. I had these ideas of how the military was going to be. And when I got there and finally got to my base, the Air Force wants you to be a tattletale. If you see somebody doing something wrong, they want you to go tell security forces or your supervision or whatever. And like if somebody's doing something really bad, yeah, go do that. But
Yeah.
I was shocked at like, say somebody was of age and they were at the bar and they were drinking and they're wanting to drive home and you're like, take their keys. And you're like, no, man, you can't go anywhere. Like, I'll get you a cab. And you get them a cab and they go home. And then they take a cab and go back and then they drive their car back and they get caught for drunk driving. It's my fault. Somehow it's my fault. That kind of stuff really got to me. I mean, just little stuff. I thought it would be more like, oh, have each other's back. Like, look out for each other. You're a team. Like, take care of each other. Big top level Air Force. They don't want that.
And I know
that was my experience.
When I got to Japan, I think your last year that you were there, it was curfew started, like essentially like the corporal punishment thing of like one person messes up, everybody's in trouble. And so that was my entire experience there, but that was your last year.
The 4 years I was there, I think we were not on curfew, maybe 1 year.
Oh, dang.
We were always on curfew. And it was, because like when you were there, I remember that was like the Navy guys had done something and that put us on curfew. Like we couldn't go off base. We couldn't do things. And then every weekend after that, at first it's like, oh, the lower enlisted can't do something. And then like an NCO would do something. Oh, well, now the NCOs can't do it. And then a senior NCO would do it. Oh, now the senior and then an officer would do something. And then it's like, what is going on?
Meanwhile, you're over here like, I'm not breaking the rules. I'm not doing anything wrong. Why am I being punished for this?
Right. That's the worst experience.
When I was in Japan, I think our unit that we were a part of ended up going dry. Nobody was allowed to drink, like not even on base. Like you couldn't even go to the bar on base. Like if you got caught drinking, period, like you had to be sober. And like it was the whole unit because guys kept getting DUIs.
Mm-hmm.
And you're over here like, I don't drink and drive. Like, why am I being punished for this? And it's just because, there's a handful of irresponsible people and then everybody had to suffer. I know some of the overseas bases definitely, stateside is not so much like that.
Yeah.
But overseas they're like, oh, fine, we'll just make it for all Americans on base. All military members have to follow these rules. And you're like, what did I do? Definitely relatable. Anybody that's ever been stationed overseas, I'm sure can relate to that type of, corporal punishment. Yeah, it's not fun when you are a responsible person and you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. And then you're still getting punished for other people. Not a fun time.
Even when you do everything you're supposed to do to help prevent them from getting in trouble.
Yeah.
Like it's still you getting in trouble.
I don't know if that was a lesson you learned, but what was the best lesson that you learned? It could be from a negative experience, a positive experience.
I learned a lot about like organization. Some might call it the discipline side of it, but just the organization of like when you're a basic, how you fold your shirts and put them in your wall locker, or like when you get in maintenance when you get to your duty station and you open the drawer of your first toolbox and you're like, holy cow, everything is exactly where it's supposed to be.
Yep.
And if it's not there, there's a tag telling you that like, oh, that tool's broken. Just that level of organization has helped me, especially now with my job. We do these things called flows, and that's how we get the airplane ready to go. And it's okay, you do A, then B, then C, then D, and it's all organized.
It's probably important that, things are where they're supposed to be when you're flying a plane too. So
Yeah. Yes. So just being able to bring that military organization, and not just like things need to be where they need to be, but even the organizational structure, the chain of command. And, we even have that as pilots, like, okay, the flight attendants have a problem, they bring it to the captain. If I have a problem, I bring it to the captain. If the captain has a problem, he knows who to bring it to,
Yep.
And you don't skip the steps. You got to roll through the chain like you're supposed to.
That was something when I joined, was how organized, because, before joining, toolboxes, just everything's just thrown in drawers. I'd never seen like a foam layer in a drawer of a toolbox, and every individual tool has a specific cutout it's a shadow of that tool.
Yeah.
Showing up to tech school where I was learning to do, our job, and you're like, whoa. And then you get to your first base and it's the same way. And everything has a place. Yeah. Everything is accounted for. And it can seem very redundant. It's one of those things where in the moment, especially when you're young, you're like, oh my gosh, this is excessive.
Yeah.
But then as an adult now, like when I have worked with other places and you see how unorganized, or they don't have like a tracking system for their assets or for their things. And you're like, whoa, wait, guys, we should have like everything should have a designated place. And you start to realize that you're actually like, no, I actually like that system. Yeah. That system works. It can be excessive, but at least I know where everything is and everything's accounted for.
Yeah. I mean, exactly. Like when I was in, you check your toolbox, like you check it, and then the person coming on checks it. And then sometimes the tool crib guy comes out and he checks it. And it's like, do three people really need to look over this box? Like, come on, you don't trust me. But like, how many times did the third guy catch something?
Yeah.
And then I bring that in, like you said, I bring that into the civilian world, and I'm doing these checks and I'm like, wow, why didn't this person see this?
Yeah.
Like, cause I'm doing my part of that check.
Yep.
And so that's been a big lesson. That's helped me a lot.
Definitely one of the things I've taken away from my military time too is like the corporate red tape, right? I've worked for companies that have a lot, have a little. The military has a ton of corporate red tape essentially. And when you work for companies that have no red tape and you're like, oh my gosh, this is chaos. And you're like, I understand why there is corporate red tape to slow things down, to make sure things are organized, to make sure things go correctly. And so actually, yeah, same. I appreciate that. I think most people, after they serve in the military, can appreciate that when they go to other companies and they see unorganized situations and they're like, I'm going to organize this for you guys because this is not okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I know that you have a totally different career path now as a pilot versus you working on the planes. What is the one thing that you think translated the most to your civilian life? And it doesn't have to be specifically work related.
I have it written down as roll with the hurry up and wait. Those concepts, the shut up and color. The Air Force is inundated with hurry up and wait. You reach this point in the military where you're just like, whatever. All right. Yeah, we're here. I got to wait. Okay. The ability to just be like, yeah, okay, it is what it is. We're flying. We got a maintenance delay, which I understand a little better than most just because I was maintenance.
Yeah.
It's just like, yeah, okay. It gets fixed when it gets fixed. And the maintenance guys come on the plane and they're like, oh, it should be 10 minutes. And I'm like, yeah, okay.
You mean 10 minutes to drive back to the shop to get the tools that you need? Another 10 minutes to drive back to the spot.
Yeah.
Another half hour to do the job.
Yeah. So just being able to deal with that, people coming down and telling you, oh, well, now this is the new policy and we got to do it this way. And you're like, if that's how you want it done, that's the way we'll do it. I was going to say the military really hit that stuff home, especially at Kadena, because we had constant turnover. So, I mean, things were in constant change. And so being able to adapt and just roll with it has helped me significantly.
It's one of those things where in a moment, you're like, gosh, this sucks. But then you realize as a civilian, you're like, oh, I'm still going to deal with this sometimes. And so you're able to probably maintain a cooler head or
Yes.
more rational thinking
Mm-hmm.
during that time. The other day I had a flight and there was a storm where I was supposed to land. So they
Mm-hmm.
diverted us to another airport. We landed. We did not go to a gate. We just
Mm-hmm.
sat out on the tarmac
Mm-hmm.
for 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
And they were like, yeah, we're going to get a fuel plant, or we're going to get a fuel truck over here. We're going to fill us up. Then we're going to take off again. And then they were like, an hour goes by and they're like, oh, fuel truck's finally coming. And
Mm-hmm.
then I'm like, well, one, we're not the only plane that got diverted over here.
Right.
So like, this fuel truck's probably having to run back and forth to go refill. It's going to take a while to fill up that fuel tank.
Mm-hmm.
Drive out here, fill up 2 planes, drive back. Some of the people on the plane were like, oh my gosh, this is taking so long. And I'm just over here like, yeah, they're like, oh, it's going to take about 30 minutes till a fuel truck gets hired. This is like an hour and a half, hour and a half. And I'm like, yeah, okay, that's par for the course. So they're like, yeah, we're going to look to try to get out of here in the next, 15 minutes. And like another hour goes by. And,
Yeah.
and then, then the pilot finally comes on. It's like, yeah, it's like, I've been putting in requests, but like I have to wait because we're not the only plane that got diverted. We're not the only plane sitting on the tarmac right now. So there are dozens of planes trying to request approval for takeoff.
Yeah. Everybody's looking for the same stuff.
Exactly. So he's like, we are in line, and he's like, I can't expedite that anymore. And they actually, that was supposed to be their first leg of their night. They're supposed to have 2 flights. And he was like, I'm trying to get this sped up so I can make it back to where I'm supposed to go tonight. It was one of those things where like a few of the people actually sitting around me, because like other people just kind of seemed like panicky and like, oh my gosh. And like, I was just like really calm and just like, whatever. I'm like working on my laptop. Like, we're going to be here for a while. Like, and like a few people started talking to me and were like, started asking me questions. And I'm like, why do you guys think I'm the go-to person here to ask questions?
You're calm. You're calm. You look like you know what's going on.
Another 5 minutes goes by and they're like, what's taking so long? There's a lot of moving pieces going on here. So, we are just one little piece. Like, we are not the most important thing here. I bet you there's higher importance aircraft out on this tarmac right now than us for whatever reason, like we're just some people trying to go to Austin, Texas. Like, that's it, and so all of the planes that are being diverted to their airspace, they're having to now, like, I'm like, air traffic control, I'm sure it was just slammed that night. And it's one of those things where I'm like, there's so many pieces at play here that like, it's not as simple as some people might want to think it is.
The biggest, I mean, you hit it with that is you're not the only plane. You're not the only plane that went there. It's first come, first serve. Really is how it goes. So whoever gets called first, and whoever's company is bigger, because they'll have different contracts and whatever. So it just,
I'm not even going to worry about it. That's I'm not getting paid to worry about this. I'm just gonna work on my laptop.
And we're sitting up there. We're calling probably every 15 minutes. 20 minutes. Hey, our fuel truck's not here yet. Is it on its way? Trying to figure out where we are in line. It is what it is. And same thing, like I see flight attendants and other pilots sometimes in that situation. They'll be like, this is, BS. Like, we should have gotten you, blah, blah. And it's like, man, what are you going to do? Just chill.
Well, I mean, in Japan, we had to do chemical warfare drills, and those were 12-hour shifts wearing MOP gear. Like, so the full charcoal, like, outfits, gas masks, everything. There were times where we would wear them for like 4 hours, like gas masks for like 4 hours straight. And they would be like, oh, the base goes on lockdown. Everybody would put their gas masks on. We would just sit in the office for 4 hours. And I'm like, and do what? Like, you couldn't be on your phone because you had these like huge rubber gloves. You had like gloves on gloves. Like, you're just sitting. You couldn't be on your phone. You couldn't do anything. You just literally like sit there. And
like,
I'm like,
you got a good seat that reclines.
So I'm sitting here like, you know what? I've been in worse situations, like sitting here for 2 hours. Oh, that's fine. At least I have my laptop and I have headphones. Like, I can do what I want to do. Yeah. When people are like, oh my gosh, 30 minutes. And you're like, oh, have I got some stories for you? Like, you want to hear hurry up and wait. And like, you just get to the point where you just become numb to it. You're like, whatever. Like, I'm just gonna hang out. So, especially in the airline industry, there's so much hurry up and wait.
You control what you can control, and most of it's out of your control. So you just gotta wait.
So what is your advice for people right now that are in the process of joining or want to serve in the Air Force?
So my first piece of advice for those people is they're doing it, watching Airman Vision, doing your research, looking up the jobs you think you might be interested in. Try to have some kind of idea like, oh, I want to do 20 years or I only want to do 4 years. Those plans are totally tentative. Everybody changes their mind, but have some idea of what you're looking at So if you know you want to go in and maybe you want to be maintenance, okay, well, try to get a maintenance, like maybe you want to be a car mechanic when you get out. Go into the maintenance field so you can work on airplanes or engines or whatever, or go work on, somebody needs to work on the cars in the Air Force, like do that job. Or you want to be a firefighter or whatever, like try to find a job like that. And if you have no idea, try to find a job that might give you skills on the outside. Just doing your research and looking stuff up. And it's easier now than when I joined, and having some semblance of an idea of what you want to do, I think is super important.
You don't want to be that person that shows like the basic training that's like, yeah, I just signed my name. I didn't look up anything.
Yeah. Oh, and then my second big piece of advice is only do 4. Only enlist for 4 years. Unless it's like some crazy $100,000 signing bonus, like don't do it.
You get your early promotion. So when you graduate tech school, you get to be E3. And so you get to be an Airman first class upon graduating tech school. I have a video that explains all of this on airmanvision.com. If you want to be a member, it's not on the YouTube channel anymore. There's only realistically like a 6-month difference between when you make E4. In the span of your career, especially if you're going to do more than 4 years, because once you test for E5, then it becomes an even playing field like the rest of the time, because everybody tests once a year. So the 6-month time frame doesn't really make a difference anymore once you've been in for 5-6 years. So after your first enlistment, that extra 6 months of early promotion in the long term really is negligent to the overall end of your career.
I met a lot of guys that signed up for 6 and at year 3 were like, screw this, I don't want to do this anymore. But they still got 3 more years. If they'd have just done a 4-year, they'd be almost on their way out.
And also, when you sign a 4-year, you only get re-enlistment bonuses when you re-enlist. And if there is a bonus available, the people that sign 4 years can re-enlist and get that bonus. You sign a 6-year, you have to wait 2 years for that bonus.
Yeah, and it might be gone by the time.
And it could happen the other way too. It could be no bonus for the 4 years and a bonus for the 6. But like if they ever do offer those bonuses, and if your job consistently offers them, you sign a 4-year, you're going to get that bonus sooner. So it's one of those things where I'm like, realistically, they hang that carrot of like early promotion, right? But financially and promotion wise, it makes more of an impact in your first 2 years of that 4-year enlistment. And then after that, it's pretty negligent. So once you've been in for 5, 6, 7 years, nobody cares if you signed a 4 or 6 to start, because it's irrelevant. Because if you joined at the same period of time, you're typically going to be the same rank, 5, 6, 7 years in. And then the people that are promoting faster are the ones that are usually excelling. They're testing better. They're have better experience in their job. That is something that I completely agree with, as much as recruiters that hate us for saying that, because I know they're incentivized to get people to sign and stay in longer. In my personal opinion, I agree that the 4-year is actually looking out for yourself more. Yes, you get the early promotion, you get the extra $30 a paycheck, your first 2 years. That extra 2 years of being confirmed in, where you could choose at your 4-year to re-enlist and stay in for another 4 or get out, versus the 6. And if you, like you said, by your 3-year mark, if you want out, if you signed a 6, you're only halfway. So the 4 gives you more options, and you can always re-enlist.
You always. Unless you're a dirtbag, they're going to take you.
And even then, there's chances that you can re-enlist. So it's one of those things where the 4-year, I've heard some people be like, oh, it's easier to re-enlist with the 6. They don't care if you've signed 4, 6, it doesn't matter. If you're eligible to re-enlist, they want you to re-enlist. We need the people in the military. Like, the military is hurting for recruiting anyways the last few years. It's not like they're going to be like, oh, sorry, you signed a 4. You're a great option. We would love to keep you, but you signed a 4, so we're just going to let you walk. Like, that's not how contracts work. So they don't care if you sign a 4 or 6. If you're eligible to re-enlist, they're going to want you to re-enlist to retain you. So what's your advice for the people that are currently in, whether they've been in for 2 years, 10 years, 15 years, whatever? What's your advice for the people that are currently in?
I know the pensions are gone away and it's 401k. That happened while I was in the reserves. I didn't look that deep into it, so I don't know that much about it.
Do it. It's a great option. It's unbelievable. I know a lot of people don't like it. The new generation is being completely set up for success with this new option. Like, it's I get why the legacy guys were like, no, this is bullcrap. You're taking away my retirement, all that. For the next generation, 80% of people don't retire. This
Yeah.
was designed to benefit those 80 some percent.
Yeah. So my immediate advice is, if you're not at least doing whatever the match, I think it's a match, right? Or something for
Yeah.
the 401k,
Yep.
do that. And if they still have the TSP, do that.
Yep.
Put automatic deductions. I started doing TSP, I think it was in my third year. I did 5%. In 3 years, I got out. I had almost 10 grand in my TSP that I
And that was,
rolled
they
over.
weren't doing matching. So the TSP
Yeah.
401k is all the same. So it is the TSP, and they match up to
Okay.
5% of your base pay if you put in 5%.
Okay.
And like you said, you put in 5%, you walked out with money. Now
Yeah.
imagine if you could have walked out with double that money, because the military would
Right.
have also paid
Right.
in an additional 5% into your retirement fund.
Yeah. And so then when I got out, I took the TSP and I rolled it into my 401k
Yep.
with my first company. And then my second company, I rolled that. And then with my third company, I rolled all of that. So it's been this, I've basically been saving in a 401k since 2011, I guess. So now my 401k is looking pretty good. Like
Yeah.
it's doing well. So that's my number one advice. If you're in and you're not doing that, you need to start doing that. You have to. And it's do the automatic deductions. It's going to hurt at first because you haven't been doing it. So it's going to be like, oh, where'd this extra $200 a month go?
Yeah.
But eventually you'll adjust and you'll be fine.
Well, I mean, every year you're going to get like a slight pay raise anyways. So then,
yeah.
And then if you get promoted, you get a pay raise. And so it's one of those things where it's like, as you get promotions and pay raises, don't increase your lifestyle. And you'll learn that, oh, I can, you after a year or two, you don't even realize that money's gone anymore. Like you don't even think about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially like the young enlisted, eat on base, eat at the DFAC. I watch so many guys blow their paychecks on going to Burger King for lunch every day.
Yeah.
So there's that. And then the other really big piece of advice I have for people that are in is, if you want to do something like cross train or go be a recruiter or an MTI or something, you have to pursue that. Like nobody's going to come and just like give you the information. So you have to go ask the questions and you have to go figure it out. And a lot of people their answer is going to be, I don't know. So you have to keep digging, because so many people don't know how to do so much stuff that you can get done.
Well, there's like thousands of opportunities in the Air Force. There's no way that anybody could know all of the options and opportunities and how to do those things. And so you have to be your own biggest advocate.
Yeah. Go to the education building and look up how to use the tuition assistance. You have time. Trust me, you have time to take classes. I didn't think I did. I kept making excuses. Oh, we got exercise coming up next month. I got to get deployed. I'm getting deployed. We're doing this, we're doing that. And so I just didn't. And then I was getting close to getting out, and I was like, man, I had all the time in the world to get these classes.
I was doing YouTube, and I got out of the Air Force after 6 years, and I needed one class to get my my CCAF. Never did. And now I'm like, no, I had that. I got that through Airman Leadership School, but I got math. I needed a math class. And I could have like clept this. So I could have literally just studied for like a week and gone and taken a test.
Yeah.
I had too much pride. I was like, I don't want to do aircraft structural maintenance. I don't need a degree in that. Now I'm looking back, I'm like, why not have that degree? Like just another thing to hang on my wall, another thing to be proud of. And I definitely could have, buckled down and done it and knocked it out. And so I joke, I'm like, don't be like me. Like just knock out your CCAF. Even if you never use it again, like other people will always look at that as a positive.
It's just a great thing to have on the resume. I mean, it really is. Yeah, I was
you definitely have time. Like, then what would be your advice for the people that are, out processing right now, or they know they're going to get out in the next year or two? They're already dead set on it. I'm gonna start my transition into the civilian world again. What's your advice for those people that are getting ready to cross back over?
Number one, pay attention during TAPS, which is the transition getting out program that they force you to take. Like, it's good information. It really is. It'll help you write a resume and translate all your military stuff into civilian stuff. That's the number one thing. Number two is, again, have some kind of idea of what you might want to do. It could be sit on a couch for 3 weeks. Like, that's fine. Like, if that's your plan, that's fine. But like, have some idea. And especially like, for example, if you're maintenance and you get out and you love maintenance and you want to go be a civilian maintainer, don't wait too long. Go get your certifications. on the civilian side. So for maintenance, go get your A&P.
You can
Even
do
if
that
you
while
just
you're in,
want-
and the Air Force will pay you to get that
there,
certification.
yeah, if you can do it while you're in, that's even better.
Yep.
That's even better. So
Yep.
many guys in sheet metal, the Air Force does not give you an A&P license. So you cannot go work for United or Delta or American as a maintainer without your A&P license.
Or you're just going to make a lot less than the A&P certified
Well,
maintainers.
you'd have to go work for a
Yeah.
different company that's contracted. The pay's pretty good from what I hear. I never did it.
Yeah.
But from what I hear, the pay's pretty good, but your benefits aren't that good.
Yep.
You're up for contract like every single year.
Yeah.
It's like stress you don't really want. So, and I'm sure for other stuff, it would be the same. Like I don't know if the Air Force gives X-ray techs a certification or whatever. If they don't, and you want to continue to do that, go get that right away. Because the longer you wait, the harder it's going to be.
Yeah.
And so, for example, when I got out in November of 2014, went to the reserves. I started my flight school training January of 2015. I had everything lined up by December of 2014 to go to school. You out there or anything like me, if I'd have waited 6 months, that's it. My opportunity's gone. Like, I'm not doing it. I'm going to start doing something else. I'm going to get comfortable and then 10 years down the road, I'm going to look back and go, oh man, I should have done XYZ. Go do it.
Especially as you get older, your time, looking back, I'm like, man, I feel like I had so much more energy and time in my 20s than in my 30s.
Yeah.
And so you look back and you're like, yeah, definitely your 20s is when you just power through it. Just go and knock out all those things. And then you're good and you're set.
Yeah. And in that, I'll tell you what, man, the post 9/11 GI Bill is amazing. It's incredible. I had to pay a little bit of money to get all my flight ratings. It was supposed to pay 100%. That's a whole nother story. They changed things while I was in flight school. So it ended up not paying 100%. But in the grand scheme of things, I still got out very cheap from having zero flight experience to being a certified flight instructor in 2 years. And I did not have to borrow that much money. Not really.
Yeah.
And then I've also used it during COVID because we weren't flying a lot because everything was shut down. I used my GI Bill. I used 6 months of it. I went and got welding certifications. I went to welding school just because I always wanted, I just wanted to learn.
Yeah. So you got paid. They paid for your school, and you got paid on top of that to learn.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so, I think I have 3 months left. When I got out, I didn't have kids at that time. So I didn't, if you want to give it to your kids, give it to your kids, give it to your spouse, whatever you want to do with it. But it's a benefit you earn. It's your right to use it. And that thing, it expires at some point.
Yeah.
So use it, whether you want to go learn a trade or a school or whatever. It's a really good deal. And it's really not, it's a little difficult at first to figure out, but it's really not that hard.
Yeah. Once you get it up and running, it's pretty simple. And typically if you, so I'm going to school full time right now, actually with ASU. So Arizona State University, I'm going online only. They pay for all of my tuition. So I'm going to a university. I don't pay a dime.
Yeah.
They pay for my books. They pay for my tuition. And I get a paycheck every single month on top of that into my personal bank account just for going to school. I've been going to school now for 2.5 years. And so you get 36 months of the GI Bill. However, it's time that you're enrolled.
Right.
So of the 2.5 years that I've been going, I took 1 semester off. That was in between. I got my associate degree, took a semester off, started back up for my bachelor's. And because I initially just wanted to get an associate, then I got my associate and I was like, you know what? I want to keep going. So I took that semester off. So 2 years total. However, it's only time that you're enrolled. So if you are enrolled for, there's a few weeks in between semesters, if you take the summer off, you only get charged out of that 36 months. You only get charged the months that you're enrolled in school. So that 36 months actually lasts you, that's 3 years technically, but that'd be if you were going to school every day for 12 months for 3 years. That's not how that works. So that 36 months of benefits actually will last you 4 years or more.
Yeah.
And so it's a great benefit. It's more than enough to get a bachelor's degree, and you get paid to go to school. Like, I don't get paid, a ton of money, but I mean, I'm getting paid more than my civilian counterparts that
Right.
are
Sure.
having to take on loans to pay
Yeah.
for it.
Well,
Because
and that's a huge thing. That's a huge thing because when before I joined, I was in school and I just borrowed. And so I went into the Air Force with a ton of student loan debt. Going back to school once I got out, it was very nice not having to take out more and just piling on top of what I already had. So being able to not have student loan debt is huge.
Especially when most of my friends that did not go military route, have been in their career paths for 10 years now, still paying off student loans.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, I'm over here, going to school now, getting a degree, albeit 15 years later than my than my friends, but I'm not pulling any loans out to do this.
Right.
And so they're still, they took out, $100,000+ worth of loans to get a 4-year degree. And I'm sitting here getting that same kind of degree, way later. I don't have to pay for it. And I'm actually getting paid to do it. So it's a huge benefit that even if you have another job lined up, you can use your GI Bill as well for like on the job training. And so there are ways you can still utilize it, even if you're not going to go specifically to school. There are ways that you can still use it to cash out some of that, because it is a benefit that you earned. And so there's multiple routes to use the GI Bill.
Yes. Yeah. It's not just for a university or a college. Like there are other ways you can use it. So
definitely leverage your benefits. And that's what TAPS is so important, because they go
Mm-hmm.
over a lot of your benefits that you might not be aware of.
Yeah. The big ones I've used the post 9/11 GI Bill. We've used the VA loan, which is huge. Go to the VA hospital and like sign up for your VA stuff. Like do all that kind of stuff.
And then I know some states even offer like certain things. Like if you have a certain disability rating, you'll get like, you don't have to pay property tax.
Yeah. I'm in Florida. There's no property tax for disability rated.
Yep. And then like some places will offer like your registration on your cars, you don't have to pay. There's benefits out there that states will even offer, but you have to have the proper documentation to prove these things. Right. And so it's like go through the process to get your VA disability rating, get that information, because then states incentivize some of that. Like some states offer different benefits to veterans because it's their way of attracting veterans to their communities or to their states. And so whether the state that you want to live in or you're looking into it, there's definitely benefits there for you to tap into. And it's just another added benefit, of a thing that you can lower your cost of living once you're out compared to others, but you earned it by doing your service. Is there anything else, Alex, that you can think of off the top of your head that you want to share with people?
If you've been in a long time, getting out sucks. I fly with a lot of guys that did 25, 30 years. They're all super great people. Losing the structure of the military is hard. Yeah. TAPS will tell you. Remember, when you get out, you're going to tell people that you're a veteran, and they're going to ask you really stupid questions sometimes. What rank were you, whatever.
Yeah.
And
well, it's easy for you because you're actually a pilot, but people probably ask, what did you fly when you were in? And you're like, actually, I didn't fly when I was in. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, were you military? Yeah. What'd you fly? I didn't. I've met one other pilot that wasn't. He was in the Army. He was like I think he was an infantry guy or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're mostly pilots, but you get out, nobody's going to care that you were a colonel. I'm sorry. Like, it's cool.
You were top dog when you got out.
Yeah. Thank you for your service, but you gotta be humble. Remember, you're kind of back on the bottom. You're not all the way on the bottom because you got a lot of experience. Yeah. You're probably coming into a better job than you would have just out of high school or whatever. You have to learn how to assimilate back into civilian life. I've seen a lot of guys that struggle. They want to run things like the military, and it's not. And you got
those guys, I'm sure, were in charge of like entire units or bases, and then they come
squadrons, bases.
They come in, and now they're just a pilot, and they're just in charge of essentially their crew.
Right.
And that's a huge drop in like when you were getting out as enlisted, you were in charge of a crew, right? So it's like as an officer being in charge of 500 people, and all of a sudden them essentially dropping down their responsibilities.
The days of picking up the phone and being like, oh, this is Master Sergeant so-and-so, and everybody, oh, oh, okay, I need to do what this person says.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to pick up the phone. This is Mr. So-and-so.
Yeah.
They're gonna be like, who are you? What do you want? Like,
Yeah.
you know, it's a big shift. It's a big shift. And you just got to keep that in mind.
I mean, I didn't go that route, so I can only imagine how difficult that is, especially after you have 20 some years of here's what your social norm is. Here's what
Yeah.
your daily norm is to, all of a sudden that you choose to get out at a certain point, right? But you come into a situation where you're like, wow, everything is totally different now. So you have
Yeah.
to
And
completely
not to harp on
readjust.
officers. That's just who I mostly
Yeah.
deal with is old officers. But, you know,
Yeah.
chiefs and seniors, I'm sure have the same
Yep.
issues.
You earned your respect when you're in, but then it's like you almost have to re-earn it once you're out
Mhm.
in the career path that you choose. So
Yeah, being a veteran is going to give you a certain level of respect. Like it
yeah.
is, even if you only did 4 years and you got out as an E4.
Yeah.
People are, oh, you were in the military? Like, oh wow, like you must have good discipline and you must be.
You're like, I didn't really do that much. Okay.
Yeah,
It's okay.
yeah. It's like, calm down.
Yeah.
but you know, and you're going to get thanked for your service a lot, which is always an awkward thing for me.
Yeah.
Thank you for your service. And you're like, okay, yeah, thanks.
I'm always just like, we appreciate it. Like
Yeah.
that's just
Yeah.
I'm like,
And it's nice that it's still like a revered position having
yeah.
been in the military. And you did. I mean, you accomplished a lot doing it. I don't mean to downplay that, but
Yeah.
you've got to remember you're assimilating back into civilian culture.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to
Yeah,
jump on
absolutely.
this. And we're actually going to be doing lunch in a few days. So that'll be
Yeah.
cool because
Yeah. I'll be in
you'll be
Vegas.
visiting Vegas. So that's
Mhm.
one of the cool perks about your job is that you get to
Yes.
travel, a little bit. So anytime you ever come out to Vegas, we usually catch up. So
Yeah.
that's a cool perk of you getting paid to kind of like you got paid to go to Hawaii and now you get paid to
Mhm.
go to a bunch of different cities. So
Yeah. It's
not
another great
3
thing.
weeks of vacation, but it's
No, no, I wish. That's another great thing about the military is you get to meet so many different people from so many different places. So
yeah.
for my job, it's awesome because I get to go. You know, I got a buddy that's still in. He's out at Luke in Phoenix,
Hmm.
and I was there. So we met up. We were in basic training together. We hadn't seen each other in 15 years or 10
That's
years or
awesome.
whatever. It's nice. There's usually people around wherever you're going.
You'll meet people from everywhere, and then when they eventually
Mhm.
get out or they stay in, they'll be whatever base they're at, or if they get out, they'll go
Yeah.
back to where they grew up, or they
Mhm.
start a new life somewhere else. And eventually you realize that people in 40 some states that you could just hit up and meet up with if you traveled through. And
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
really cool experience coming out of the military and having
Mhm.
that network that is so vast. All right, Alex, I appreciate the interview.
Yeah. Anytime, Kyle.